The unexpected gift. The storm broke just as the Thal'kren ship descended. From the watchtower of Fort Eos, Captain Mara Ellis stood rigid, wind tugging at her coat, watching the slate-gray sky split with lightning behind a black, claw-shaped craft. She had seen Thal'kren vessels before, but always in the distance, circling like vultures over border disputes. They never landed in human territory without a fight. This time, there was no fight. The ship touched down on the colony's flat rock landing zone, its landing struts sinking into the rain-slick mud. The ramp dropped with a metallic groan, releasing a wash of heat and the scent of something sharp, like blood and metal shavings. The figure who emerged was unmistakable. Vrath Kor, war leader of the Red Fang hunting clans, stood over 2 meters tall, his 4 arms encased in segmented black armor. A jagged scar crossed one yellow eye, and his upper right hand clutched a bundle wrapped in rough, animal hide cloth. Colonists gathered despite the weather, whispering anxiously. The Thal'kren had no reputation for mercy. If Vrath Kor had come here, carrying something, it was either a declaration of war, or something worse. Mara stepped forward, rifle slung but ready. "Vrath Kor," she called over the wind, "you're far from your hunting grounds." The alien tilted his head, considering her words as though weighing their scent. Then, without preamble, he placed the bundle in the mud between them. The wrappings shifted, and a sound emerged, not mechanical, but living. A sharp, chirping growl. Mara's eyes narrowed. "What?" The cloth slipped open, revealing 3 small Thal'kren cubs. Their fur was still mottled with juvenile stripes, their teeth needle-sharp, their eyes bright with a wild, predatory gleam. One hissed at her, the other 2 pressed close together, nostrils flaring at the strange human scents around them. "You will guard them," Vrath Kor said in heavily accented trade common. His voice was a low, vibrating growl, as if it belonged to the storm. "Feed them. Teach them. They are mine. I will return." The crowd murmured in disbelief. No Thal'kren would ever entrust cubs to outsiders. Cubs were the clan's future, and their upbringing was brutal, even lethal. That Vrath Kor would leave them here, among humans, was unthinkable. Mara kept her voice even. "Why us?" The war leader's scarred face betrayed nothing. "You are prey that survives. We will see if you can make hunters." He turned without another word, retreating up the ramp as though the conversation were finished. Moments later, the ship rose into the storm and was gone. Back in the colony command room, the debate was immediate and heated. Some argued that the cubs were a trap, a way for the Thal'kren to study human behavior or to plant future saboteurs. Others feared the cubs would grow too dangerous to control. Mara listened, arms folded. "If we refuse, we insult Vrath Kor. If we kill them, we invite war. If we succeed," she let the implication hang, "we might gain something no one else in the sector has, an ally among the clans." Her eyes fell on Dr. Elias Tan, who had been silent so far, leaning in the corner with a thoughtful frown. Elias was a xenobiologist, and perhaps the only person Mara knew who could spend hours with a predator and not get mauled, most of the time. "You're thinking of volunteering," Mara said. He smiled faintly. "Not volunteering. Just wondering how much they can learn if we don't teach them the Thal'kren way." "Which is?" "Beating them into obedience until they're too scared to think for themselves." After a long pause, Mara nodded. "They're yours." Elias brought the cubs to his research dome on the colony's southern ridge. They explored instantly, sniffing every surface, claws scratching on the floor plates. The smallest, with a broken left ear tip, hissed at him when he tried to approach. He didn't force it. Instead, he placed a strip of dried meat on the floor, sat cross-legged, and waited. Within minutes, the largest cub, all boldness and bared teeth, approached and snatched the strip, retreating to share it with the others. When night fell, Elias found them curled together in the corner, watching him through half-lidded eyes. Predators, yes, but curious ones. He jotted a note in his log. "Day 1. They're assessing me as much as I'm assessing them. They don't yet know I'm not their enemy." Outside, the storm passed. Inside, 3 alien cubs lay in human care, their future unwritten. And somewhere beyond the clouds, Vrath Kor was already on his way home, leaving the fate of his bloodline in the hands of prey. Raising the predators. The first week nearly broke Elias. The cubs, 3 bundles of claws, teeth, and relentless energy, treated his research dome like their personal hunting ground. They climbed walls, shredded insulation foam, and nearly took down the power conduit after deciding it was prey. Feeding them was the first battle. The Thal'kren diet was mostly fresh meat, still warm from the kill. The colony's protein synthesizers could mimic texture, but the cubs rejected it outright, flipping bowls with disdain. Elias had to make daily trips to the livestock pens for fresh carcasses, learning quickly that they preferred small prey they could finish themselves. The second battle was discipline, or rather, the lack of it. In Thal'kren tradition, discipline came through dominance. Break the will, force obedience. Elias refused. Instead, he used patience and persistence, watching how they interacted with each other. The largest, whom he nicknamed Ash, was a natural leader. The smallest, Fen, stayed close to the others, wary but quick to follow. The middle cub, Ser, was unpredictable, switching between playful curiosity and explosive bursts of aggression. Rather than punish aggression, Elias redirected it. When Ser lunged at his hand one morning, Elias rolled a weighted ball across the floor. The cub froze, then pounced, and kept pouncing until panting from the effort. Soon, chasing the ball became their preferred outlet for tension. As weeks passed, progress emerged in small but unmistakable ways. They began to respond to vocal cues. Down meant crouch. Wait meant stay. Elias accompanied every command with a gesture, just in case vocal tones weren't enough. To his surprise, they started combining the gestures into crude communication of their own, pointing toward food, tapping the ground to request play. The first true breakthrough came one afternoon when a mining drone malfunctioned outside the dome. The machine's stabilizers failed, sending it careening toward the colony's east field, directly toward a group of children gathering wild fruit. Elias barely had time to shout before Ash and Ser darted past him. They didn't attack the children. They didn't attack the drone. They herded the kids aside, cutting them off from the machine's path and pushing them toward safety. The drone skidded to a halt against a rock outcropping, harmless. The story spread through the colony in hours. They saved the kids, one settler told the market crowd. They got lucky, another muttered. They're still predators. One day they'll decide we're the prey. The colony split between those who now saw the cubs as potential allies and those who still feared them. Inside the dome, Elias kept pushing. The cubs learned to open simple latches, climb obstacle frames he built from scrap pipe, and even mimic basic human gestures, though Ash's attempt at a thumbs-up looked more like an awkward claw display. Fen, the quiet one, surprised him by mastering a puzzle feeder meant for avian species, prying open each compartment with careful precision. He began to suspect that the cubs were developing faster than their species normally did. Thal'kren juveniles, according to every xenobiology record, took years to master tool use. These 3 were doing it in months. He logged the observation carefully. Human nurturing methods, structured play, cooperative problem-solving, appear to accelerate neural adaptation in Thal'kren juveniles. That night, as rain tapped against the dome's roof, Elias sat in the dim light reviewing his notes. Behind him, the cubs lay sprawled together, tails twitching in sleep. Then he heard it, low, garbled vocalizations. At first, he thought they were dreaming. But as he turned, he realized they were mimicking. Ash made a sound almost like Ash. Ser followed with a strangled approximation of Elias. Fen, still half asleep, murmured something that could have been good. It wasn't perfect, but it was language. Or the beginning of it. Elias leaned back, watching them in the quiet. Vrathkor had left them here to see if prey could raise predators. But this was something else entirely. They weren't losing their instincts. They were layering human ways of thinking on top of them. If the Thal'kren way was to make killers, then the human way was making something new. Something that might be more dangerous and more powerful than either species alone. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a thought took root. If they could do this with 3 cubs, what would happen if humanity raised an entire generation? The return. By the second year, the cubs were no longer cubs. Ash had grown into a sleek, powerful hunter with a mane of dark fur streaked in silver. Ser was broader, his claws thicker, but his bursts of mischief hadn't dimmed. Fen, still smaller than the other 2, had eyes that missed nothing, the quiet thinker, the one Elias trusted to spot trouble before it happened. They could understand full sentences in English and trade common. They could track a target through the dense ridge forest without leaving a sound. They could also dismantle a stubborn irrigation pump in 20 minutes and put it back together in 10, which had impressed the colony engineers almost as much as their rescue of the children. Then came the day the sky lit with a new arrival. Colony sensors caught it first, a Thal'kren warship, bigger than anything the humans had seen up close. The landing alert blared across Fort Eos. This wasn't a trade ship. It wasn't a scout. The profile matched Vrathkor's flagship. The cubs heard it before anyone told them. Ash froze mid-step in the training yard, ears pivoting toward the sound of descending engines. Sare's fur bristled. Fenn's tail lashed once, sharply, as if cutting through the air. Elias met Mara in the command room. "He's here for them," Elias said. It wasn't a question. "Or for us," Mara replied. "Either way, we don't keep him waiting." Vrathkor emerged from the landing ramp like a living shadow. The armor was the same, though more scarred. His eyes swept the human gathering, then landed on Elias. "Where are they?" Elias stepped aside. Ash, Sare, and Fenn padded forward from behind the crowd. They wore simple utility harnesses instead of armor, each carrying a tool strapped to their side, not weapons, but gear they had chosen themselves. Vrathkor's upper lip curled, showing teeth. "You dress them as workers." "They work," Elias said evenly. "They think. They solve problems." "Do they kill?" "When they must," Elias replied, "and only then." The Thal'kren leader strode forward until he towered over Ash. The young hunter met his gaze without flinching. Vrathkor gripped Ash's forearm in a warrior's clasp, testing the strength of his grip. Ash returned it, steady and firm. "A hunt," Vrathkor declared. "Now." They chose the ridge forest. The target, a swift, six-legged grazer known for its vicious kick. Vrathkor expected his offspring to run it down, tear it apart, and bring back the carcass. They didn't. Ash and Sare flanked the creature, herding it toward Fenn, who had set a trap snare from woven synth rope. The grazer fell into it, thrashing. Ash moved in but stopped short of the killing strike. Sare stepped forward, ready, but at a sharp gesture from Ash, he backed away. Vrathkor's voice was a growl. "Finish it." Ash turned, speaking in a mix of halting Thal'kren and English. "We do not waste life. Not hungry. No threat." Vrathkor's eyes narrowed. "This is weakness." Fenn spoke for the first time, his voice softer but cutting through the forest air. "No. This is choice." For a long moment, there was only the sound of the trapped grazer's ragged breathing. Then Vrathkor strode forward, slicing the snare. The creature bolted into the trees. Back at the landing zone, Vrathkor faced Elias. "You have made them strange." Elias didn't flinch. "I didn't make them anything. They made themselves, once we gave them the chance." The alien's gaze moved to his offspring. "You are not as I left you. You are more." Ash inclined his head, a gesture half human, half Thal'kren. "We are both." Vrathkor looked at them for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice held no anger, only something that might have been pride, though Thal'kren pride was a dangerous thing. "I left you here to see if prey could shape hunters. You are hunters still. But now you carry other weapons." His gaze shifted back to Elias. "And that makes you dangerous." Elias only smiled faintly. "Good. That's human tradition. Humans are special." The morning after the hunt, the colony gathered in the square. Vrathkor stood before his ship, flanked by Ash, Sare, and Fenn. The three young hunters looked between him and the humans, their postures tense, as though waiting for a verdict. Captain Mara faced him across the open space. "You've seen the result of your experiment." Vrathkor's gaze swept over the crowd. "I expected to find my blood soft and timid. Instead, I find them sharp in mind and strong in limb. But they refuse the kill." Murmurs rippled through the humans. Elias stepped forward. "They refuse unnecessary killing. There's a difference." The alien leader's lower set of hands flexed, an unconscious sign of inner conflict. "In my clans, a hunter without the will to kill is useless. but a hunter who can choose when to kill. His eyes shifted toward Ash. That is something else. Later, inside the colony's meeting hall, Vrathkor spoke with Mara and Elias in private. The cubs, no, the young hunters now, waited outside. I left them here because our young grow reckless, Vrathkor admitted. Too eager for blood. Too proud to think before they strike. I thought perhaps humans, with your endurance and strange cooperation, could temper them. And? Mara asked. They are tempered, but they are also different. They carry something I do not yet have a word for. They call it choice. We call it hesitation. His tone suggested the word was not entirely an insult. Elias leaned forward. It's not hesitation. It's strategy. It's understanding that strength isn't just in claws and teeth. It's in knowing when not to use them. Vrathkor considered this. Our kind survives by dominance. Yours survives by adaptation. Exactly, Elias said. That's what they've learned. And they can teach it. By midday, the decision was made. Vrathkor would not take his offspring back into isolation. Instead, they would travel between human and Thal'kren worlds, teaching the young of both species. The idea was unprecedented and dangerous. Both societies had those who would see it as a betrayal. When the announcement was made in the square, Ash stepped forward to speak. His voice carried the clipped precision of someone still mastering a language, but every word was deliberate. We are Thal'kren. We are also of this colony. We will hunt with our people. We will learn with our people. We will not forget either home. The crowd was silent. Then a few colonists clapped. More joined. Soon, even the wary ones gave small nods. Vrathkor spoke next, his voice resonating over the square. Humans are dangerous, he said, and a ripple of tension moved through the crowd. Not for your weapons. Not for your machines. You are dangerous because you change what you touch. You have changed them. Perhaps you will change us. Over the next weeks, preparations began. The 3 young hunters trained alongside human marines in the morning, then worked with engineers and medics in the afternoon. They learned how to repair shuttle engines, navigate by human star charts, and even perform basic field medicine. In return, they taught humans how to track through dense alien forests, read atmospheric scents for incoming storms, and fight with the speed and precision of a Thal'kren duel. Trade began between the colony and the Red Fang clans, not just in goods, but in knowledge. On the day of departure, Elias stood at the landing zone watching Ash, Ser, and Fen board Vrathkor's ship. They were taller than him now, but each still clasped his forearm in the human style before leaving. Come back, Elias said. Ash gave a toothy grin. Always. As the ramp closed, Vrathkor paused, looking down at Elias. You are prey that survives, he said, echoing his words from 2 years ago. Then his voice softened, almost imperceptibly. And prey that teaches. That is, new. The ship lifted into the pale morning sky, leaving the colony in the roar of its engines. Months later, another Thal'kren ship arrived. This one carried no warriors, only 4 small cubs, wide-eyed and bristling. A young pilot stepped down from the ramp, offering a sealed message to Mara. She broke the seal and read aloud. These are not an experiment. These are a gift. Elias stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the cubs sniff the air. He smiled, already imagining the training dome, the puzzle feeders, and the first games of chase. Because humanity's greatest weapon had never been its ships or its guns. It was empathy. And empathy, once planted, could grow anywhere.